In the summer of 2019, the basketball world shifted its axis to Brooklyn. Two of the game's most electrifying talents, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, joined forces to create what many believed would be the NBA's next great dynasty. They brought championship pedigree, unmatched skill, and the promise of redemption to a franchise still searching for its identity. But what followed was a saga of brilliant basketball, controversy, injuries, and ultimately, unfulfilled potential. This is the story of how the Brooklyn Nets assembled one of the most talented teams in NBA history, and how it all fell apart. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more NBA stories, just like this one. To understand the magnitude of Durant and Irving's arrival, we first need to look at where the Nets were coming from. After years of mediocrity following the disastrous Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce trade, Brooklyn found itself without stars, without draft picks, and without direction. But in the shadows of basketball irrelevance, something special was brewing. Led by D'Angelo Russell, a castaway from the Lakers looking for redemption, the 2018-19 Nets became one of the NBA's most surprising and endearing teams. Russell transformed into an all-star. Spencer Dinwiddie and Karis LeVert emerged as dynamic scorers. Joe Harris became one of the league's deadliest shooters, and coach Kenny Atkinson crafted a modern, free-flowing system that maximized this collection of overlooked talent. The scrappy Nets clawed their way to 42 wins and a playoff berth. They weren't championship contenders, but they had something perhaps more valuable: authenticity. This was a team built on player development, teamwork, and resilience. Little did they know, everything was about to change. Kyrie Irving was already a basketball legend. His game-winning three over Stephen Curry in Game 7 of the 2016 Finals delivered Cleveland its first championship and cemented Irving as one of the most clutch performers in NBA history.
Curry in the pick and roll trying to get him on Irving. Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown!
With perhaps the most spectacular ball-handling skills the game has ever seen, Irving could make defenders look foolish with his dazzling dribble moves. His finishing around the rim was artistic, using angles, English, and creativity that defied conventional basketball physics. But after forcing a trade from Cleveland to escape LeBron's shadow, Irving's tenure in Boston proved tumultuous. Despite his brilliance on the court, his leadership was questioned, relationships fractured, and a team loaded with talent underachieved. Meanwhile, Kevin Durant had established himself as perhaps the most unstoppable offensive force in basketball history. Standing nearly 7 feet tall with guard-like skills, Durant could shoot over any defender, handle the ball like someone a foot shorter, and score from anywhere on the court. After joining the Warriors in 2016, he had captured 2 championships and 2 Finals MVPs, validating his greatness on basketball's biggest stage. But in Game 5 of the 2019 Finals against Toronto, disaster struck. Durant, attempting to return from a calf injury, ruptured his Achilles tendon, one of the most devastating injuries in basketball. In an instant, the trajectory of the NBA changed forever. On June 30th, 2019, the basketball world was stunned as news broke that both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving were taking their talents to Brooklyn.
Big money and big moves impacting the entire league. And the headline, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are both headed to Brooklyn to join the Nets. So that's great news for the Nets fans. Not so great for New York's other team, the Knicks.
Not the Knicks, as many had predicted, but the Nets, a franchise that had always lived in the shadow of their Manhattan neighbors. Durant signed despite knowing he would miss the entire 2019-20 season, recovering from his Achilles injury. It was a power move that showed the league had changed. Star players were now dictating their futures and forming super teams on their own terms. For Nets general manager Sean Marks, it was the culmination of a meticulous rebuild. He had transformed Brooklyn into a destination, with a state-of-the-art practice facility, progressive coaching, and a culture that appealed to the modern NBA star. The cost was steep. D'Angelo Russell was sent to Golden State. The heart and soul of that overachieving Nets team would be dismantled to make way for star power. The Nets were going all in. With Durant recovering, The 2019-20 season became the Kyrie show in Brooklyn. When available, Irving was spectacular, including a 50-point debut and several dazzling performances that gave Nets fans a taste of what was to come. But availability became the issue. Irving played just 20 games due to various injuries. Without him and Durant, the Nets were merely average. Then COVID-19 hit, shutting down the season for months. When the NBA resumed in the Orlando bubble, a depleted Nets team was swept in the first round by the Toronto Raptors. But nobody was worried. The real Brooklyn Nets had yet to take the floor. James Harden had redefined offensive basketball in Houston. The master of isolation, step-back threes, and drawing fouls, Harden had become the most prolific scorer of his generation. His 2018-19 season was historic, averaging 36.1 points per game, the highest since Michael Jordan. But by late 2020, Harden's relationship with the Rockets had deteriorated. After another playoff disappointment and coaching changes, the former MVP wanted out. What followed was one of the strangest spectacles in recent NBA memory. Harden showed up to training camp noticeably overweight, seemingly disinterested, and ultimately forced Houston's hand with public comments about the team being not good enough. On January 13, 2021, Brooklyn stunned the NBA world again. James Harden was headed to the Nets in a 4-team mega deal. The cost was steep, promising young center Jarrett Allen, scorer Karis LeVert, and a mountain of draft picks and swaps. The Brooklyn Nets now featured 3 of the most talented offensive players ever assembled on one team. A trio that had combined for 24 All-Star appearances, 18 All-NBA selections, and 2 MVPs. The NBA had never seen anything like it. Before the Harden trade, Jarrett Allen was Brooklyn's defensive anchor, a shot-blocking machine with a 7'6" wingspan who was just scratching the surface of his potential. His departure in the Harden deal would prove costly in the long run. Joe Harris, the sharpshooter who led the NBA in three-point percentage, provided the perfect floor spacing for Brooklyn stars. His ability to move without the ball and hit shots at an elite level made him invaluable. Then there was Blake Griffin, once one of the NBA's most explosive athletes, now reinventing himself in Brooklyn. After being bought out by Detroit, Griffin joined the Nets and showed flashes of his former glory, including thunderous dunks that had fans thinking they'd traveled back in time. LaMarcus Aldridge, a 7-time All-Star, also joined mid-season after a buyout from San Antonio. His smooth mid-range game and veteran presence added yet another weapon to Brooklyn's arsenal. Young Nicholas Claxton emerged as a versatile defender who could switch onto guards and protect the rim. His development represented the kind of homegrown talent the Nets would desperately need after mortgaging their future. Perhaps no role player embodied Brooklyn's creativity more than Bruce Brown, a 6'4" guard who was deployed as a mini-center in the Nets' unorthodox lineups. His floaters, hustle, and willingness to do the dirty work made him a fan favorite and crucial piece. Patty Mills would join later, bringing championship experience from San Antonio and an infectious energy that kept the team afloat during its darkest periods. On paper, this supporting cast complemented the stars perfectly. But as we would soon learn, chemistry on paper doesn't always translate to chemistry on the court. When they played together, the Nets were basketball nirvana. Durant, as lethal as ever despite the Achilles injury. Irving, a basketball artist whose handle and finishing were unmatched. Harden, reinventing himself as a pass-first maestro while still capable of scoring explosions. In the limited time all 3 stars shared the court, Brooklyn posted the highest offensive rating in NBA history. It wasn't just the individual talent, it was how perfectly they complemented each other. Harden orchestrating, Kyrie creating, and Durant serving as the ultimate safety valve who could score against any defense. Surrounded by shooters like Joe Harris, defenders like Bruce Brown, and veterans like Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge, the Nets appeared unstoppable. But availability would once again become the ultimate obstacle. The 2021 playoffs began with Brooklyn demolishing the Boston Celtics in 5 games. The Nets' big 3 were brilliant, averaging a combined 85.2 points per game, showing why many considered them championship favorites. In the second round, they faced their toughest test, Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks. What followed was an epic series that would ultimately define the Durant-Irving era in Brooklyn. Disaster struck in the opening minute of Game 1 when James Harden aggravated a hamstring injury.
Hawks in his third year as head coach of the Bucks. Tucker hits from in close. PJ Tucker, who can hit the corner three, was wide open, and
Harden has just gone to the locker room after appearing to injure his right hamstring. Now keep in mind.
Despite this massive blow, Durant and Irving were about to put on a masterclass in superstar basketball. In Game 1, with Harden sidelined, Durant erupted for 29 points and 10 rebounds, while Kyrie added 25 points and 8 assists. The Nets' role players stepped up magnificently. Blake Griffin turned back the clock with emphatic dunks. Joe Harris hit 6 three-pointers, and Mike James provided unexpected scoring off the bench. The Nets took Game 1, 115-107. Game 2 was the Kyrie Irving show. Irving scored 22 points in just the first half, mesmerizing the Bucks' defense with his impossible dribbling combinations and acrobatic finishes. He ended with 33 points on just 19 shots. Durant was equally unstoppable, adding 32 points, while Bruce Brown emerged as an unlikely hero with 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Nets dominated, winning 125-86. Their largest playoff victory in franchise history. On the other side, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the two-time reigning MVP, was struggling against Brooklyn's wall of defenders. The history between Giannis and Harden added another layer of intrigue. Harden had previously suggested Giannis's game required no skill, while Giannis had taken a jab at Harden during the All-Star draft. Now, their teams were battling with a conference finals berth on the line. The Bucks were in desperation mode heading back to Milwaukee. With their season on the line, Chris Middleton stepped up with 35 points in Game 3, while Giannis added 33 points and 14 rebounds. The Bucks' defensive adjustments stifled Brooklyn, and Milwaukee got back in the series with an 86-83 win. In Game 4, the series momentum dramatically shifted. Kyrie Irving landed awkwardly on Giannis's foot, suffering an ankle sprain that would end his series. The Nets, already without Harden, now had just one superstar left standing. The Bucks took full advantage, tying the series 2-2 with a dominant 107-96 victory behind Giannis's 34 points and 12 rebounds. What followed was one of the greatest individual performances in playoff history. In Game 5, Kevin Durant played all 48 minutes, scoring 49 points with 17 rebounds and 10 assists, single-handedly giving Brooklyn a 3-2 series lead. Durant became the first player in NBA history to record 45-plus points, 15-plus rebounds, and 10-plus assists in a playoff game. It was heroic, a performance that seemed to shift the series back to Brooklyn. The Bucks wouldn't go away. In Game 6, Giannis matched Durant's intensity with 30 points and 17 rebounds, while Chris Middleton added 38 points, including clutch jumpers down the stretch. The Bucks forced a decisive Game 7 in Brooklyn. Game 7 became an instant classic, a duel between Durant and Giannis that basketball fans will talk about for generations. Durant, again playing every minute, scored 48 points, including what appeared to be a game-winning three-pointer over PJ Tucker with 1 second remaining. But upon review, Durant's toe was on the line, making it a two-pointer that merely tied the game instead of winning it. Exhausted from playing every minute, Durant and the shorthanded Nets ran out of gas in overtime. Giannis scored 40 points with 13 rebounds, and the Bucks escaped with a 115-111 victory, ending Brooklyn's championship dreams by the literal margin of Durant's shoe size. It was as close as the Durant-Irving Nets would ever come to fulfilling their potential. A toe on the line separated them from basketball immortality. As the 2021-22 season approached, a new obstacle emerged. New York City instituted a vaccine mandate for indoor venues, including Barclays Center. Any unvaccinated Nets player would be ineligible to play home games. Kyrie Irving chose not to get vaccinated. What followed was a media firestorm and one of the most divisive situations in recent NBA memory. Irving stood firm in his personal choice, while the Nets were left to navigate an unprecedented situation. Initially, the Nets took a hardline stance, announcing that Irving would not play at all until he could be a full participant. No road games, no part-time player. The championship or bust Nets would enter the season without one of their stars. Durant and Harden shouldered the load, with KD playing at an MVP level. The Nets still looked like contenders, but the strain of extra minutes and responsibility began to take its toll on both stars. By January 2022, with injuries mounting and COVID protocols depleting the roster, the Nets reversed course. Irving would return as a part-time player, available only for road games outside of New York and Toronto. It was an awkward compromise that created a bizarre situation. A max contract superstar playing only half the schedule. The chemistry and continuity that championship teams rely on was impossible to develop. As Irving remained a part-time player and Durant suffered a knee injury, James Harden grew increasingly frustrated. The player who had forced his way to Brooklyn now wanted out. His play declined noticeably. The burst that made him unstoppable in Houston appeared diminished. His body language told the story of a player who had checked out mentally. Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, another drama was unfolding. Ben Simmons, following a disastrous playoff performance, had requested a trade and was refusing to play for the 76ers. On February 10, 2022, just 1 year after acquiring Harden, the Nets traded him to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and draft picks. The Big Three experiment had officially failed after playing just 16 games together. Andre Drummond, a former rebounding champion, provided the Nets with much-needed size and interior presence, albeit briefly. His powerful dunks and board work gave Brooklyn a dimension they'd been missing. Seth Curry, one of the NBA's most accurate three-point shooters and brother of Stephen Curry, brought elite spacing and scoring punch off the bench. As for Ben Simmons, he would not play a single game that season, citing mental health concerns and then a back injury. The Nets had traded one unavailable star for another. By the time the 2022 playoffs arrived, New York had lifted its vaccine mandate, allowing Irving to play home games again. Durant was back from injury. The Nets had limped to the 7th seed, but still entered the postseason as dangerous dark horses. Their first-round opponents, the Boston Celtics, had other ideas. With a suffocating defensive scheme targeting Durant, Boston held the scoring legend to just 38.6% shooting in the series. Irving, playing in Boston for the first time in the playoffs since his departure, was met with hostile crowds. The pressure and emotion seemed to affect his game, and his most memorable moment came when he gave the middle finger to heckling fans. The result was a humiliating sweep. The super team that was built to win multiple championships couldn't win a single playoff game. The writing was on the wall. This experiment had failed. In the summer of 2022, the situation went from bad to worse. Kevin Durant, seeing the team falling apart around him, requested a trade. He had signed a 4-year extension just a year earlier, but now wanted out of the situation he had helped create. For weeks, the NBA world was consumed with trade scenarios. Where would Durant go? What could the Nets get in return for one of the greatest players ever? But no deal materialized. The Nets' asking price was astronomical, and ultimately Durant remained in Brooklyn. Meanwhile, Irving's contract situation became another soap opera. Unable to secure a long-term maximum extension due to availability concerns, Irving opted into the final year of his deal. The relationship between star and franchise had deteriorated beyond repair. Remarkably, the 2022-23 season began with Durant, Irving, and Simmons, all in Nets uniforms. But the harmony was short-lived. In November 2022, Irving posted a link to an anti-Semitic film on social media, creating yet another firestorm. His initial refusal to apologize led to a team suspension. The distraction was the last thing a fragile Brooklyn team needed. By February 2023, Irving had requested a trade, ending up with the Dallas Mavericks. Days later, Durant was traded to the Phoenix Suns. In the span of 1 week, the super team that was supposed to bring multiple championships to Brooklyn was completely dismantled. In return for their stars, the Nets acquired solid players like Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, and Spencer Dinwiddie, along with a mountain of draft picks. Ironically, they found themselves back in a situation similar to the one before Durant and Irving arrived. A team built on young talent and future assets, not superstars. The final insult? Those picks the Nets had traded to acquire Harden, which then went to Houston, would directly affect Brooklyn's ability to rebuild. The same mistake that had haunted the franchise after the Garnett-Pierce trade had been repeated. The Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving era in Brooklyn will forever be remembered as one of basketball's greatest what-ifs. In theory, it was a team that could have revolutionized basketball. 3 of the most skilled offensive players ever, surrounded by perfect complementary pieces. But in reality, it produced just one playoff series victory. The lasting image remains Durant's toe on the three-point line, inches away from perhaps changing the entire narrative. For Nets fans, it was a roller coaster of emotions. From the elation of landing 2 superstars who chose their team over the Knicks, to the excitement of adding Harden, to the disappointment of watching it all unravel due to injuries, availability issues, and off-court drama. In the end, the Durant-Irving Nets joined the ranks of NBA superteams that failed to meet expectations. A cautionary tale that talent alone doesn't guarantee success. That championships require more than just assembling stars. They require health, sacrifice, compatibility, and perhaps most importantly, a little bit of luck. And sometimes they require a size 16 shoe to be just a half-inch further back from the line. If you enjoyed this breakdown of one of the NBA's most fascinating what-ifs, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more NBA stories, and let me know in the comments which team or player you'd like to see covered next.